The morning sun cast long shadows across the grounds of Windsor Castle, as 10-year-old Prince George Alexander Louis of Wales sat quietly in his bedroom, preparing for what would become one of the most talked-about royal moments of the year. Little did anyone know that a single word spoken from the heart of a young prince would soon capture the attention of millions around the world and reveal something deeply personal about the Wales family. Prince George had always been different from other children his age, not just because of his royal status, but because of the weight of expectation that rested on his young shoulders. As the future King of England, every public appearance was scrutinized, every gesture analyzed, and every word he spoke could potentially make headlines. Yet on this particular June morning in 2022, as he prepared for the annual Trooping the Colour ceremony, George was simply a boy who wanted to spend time with his mother. The relationship between Prince George and Catherine, Princess of Wales, had always been special. From the moment he was born on July 22, 2013, at St. Nevilman, Mary's Hospital in London, Catherine had been determined to give her eldest son as normal a childhood as possible, despite the extraordinary circumstances of their lives. She had fought for his privacy, shielded him from unnecessary media attention, and worked tirelessly to ensure that before he was a prince, he was simply her son. Catherine remembered the early days when George was just learning to speak. Like many children, he had struggled with certain sounds and pronunciations. The formal mother seemed too distant for their warm relationship, while Mummy felt too babyish as he grew older. Gradually, naturally, he had settled on something that felt just right to both of them. It was a name that bridged the gap between formality and affection, between royal protocol and genuine mother-son love. The Wales family had always prized authenticity over artifice. Unlike previous generations of royals who maintained strict formalities even in private, William and Catherine had chosen a different path for their children. They wanted George, Charlotte, and Louis to feel comfortable expressing themselves naturally, to maintain genuine relationships within the family structure, and to understand that titles and positions didn't diminish the importance of real human connections. In the weeks leading up to Trooping the Colour 2022, George had been particularly excited. This would be one of the few times each year when he could appear publicly alongside his parents, and he took his role seriously. He understood that people would be watching, that photographers would capture every moment, and that his behavior reflected not just on himself, but on the entire royal family. Yet despite this understanding, he remained fundamentally a child who simply wanted to share special moments with the people he loved most. Catherine had spent considerable time preparing George for the ceremony. She explained the significance of the event, the importance of honoring his grandfather's birthday, and the role the royal family played in these traditions. But more than that, she reminded him that no matter how formal the occasion, no matter how many people were watching, she would always be there for him. She was his anchor in the storm of royal duty, his source of comfort and guidance. The relationship between Catherine and George had been forged through countless private moments that the public never saw. There were the bedtime stories she read to him every night when she wasn't away on royal duties, the times she helped him with his homework at Kensington Palace, and the quiet conversations they shared about his future and the responsibilities that awaited him. These intimate moments had created a bond that went far beyond the formal relationship between a future queen and a future king. George had also witnessed his mother's dedication to their family through difficult times. When Catherine had suffered from severe morning sickness during her pregnancies with Charlotte and Louis, George had seen her strength and determination. When she faced criticism in the media, he had watched her maintain her dignity and focus on what truly mattered. These experiences had taught him that his mother was not just a royal figure, but a woman of remarkable character and resilience. The morning of Trooping the Colour, Catherine helped George get dressed in his smart navy suit and tie. She straightened his collar, smoothed down his hair, and looked into his eyes with the mixture of pride and concern that only a mother could feel. She knew that this day would be special, but she had no idea that a single moment of natural affection between them would soon become one of the most endearing royal moments in recent memory. As they prepared to leave for the ceremony, George felt a familiar surge of nervousness mixed with excitement. He knew that thousands of people would line the streets to watch the procession, that millions more would be watching on television around the world, and that every detail of the day would be analyzed and discussed. Yet when he looked at his mother, when he saw her encouraging smile and felt her reassuring presence, all of those concerns seemed to fade away. The drive to Horse Guards Parade was filled with quiet conversation between the family members. Catherine reminded her children about the day's schedule, pointed out landmarks along the route, and helped them prepare mentally for the crowds they would encounter. George listened carefully, asking occasional questions and absorbing his mother's guidance. He trusted her completely, knowing that she would guide him through whatever challenges the day might bring. As their carriage approached the ceremony grounds, George could hear the growing sounds of the crowd. The excitement was palpable, the anticipation building with every passing moment. Soon, they would be part of one of Britain's most treasured traditions, participating in a ceremony that had been celebrated for generations. George felt proud to be there, honored to represent his family, and grateful to have his mother by his side. What none of them could have predicted was that this day would become famous not for the pageantry, not for the military precision, or even for the royal protocol, but for a single word spoken from the heart of a young boy to his beloved mother. In just a few hours, that word would be captured by eagle-eyed lip readers, shared across social media, and embraced by royal fans around the world as evidence of the genuine love and normalcy that existed within the Wales family. The stage was set for a moment that would reveal something beautiful and authentic about the relationship between Prince George and Catherine, Princess of Wales. It would show the world that beneath all the titles, ceremonies, and royal obligations, they remained, fundamentally and wonderfully, simply a mother and her son who loved each other deeply. The grand procession began with all the pomp and ceremony that Trooping the Colour was famous for. The sound of military bands filled the air, their music echoing off the historic buildings of London as hundreds of soldiers in their immaculate red uniforms marched in perfect formation. Horse Guards Parade was transformed into a spectacular display of British tradition, with every detail carefully orchestrated to honor King Charles III on his official birthday. Prince George sat in the ornate carriage alongside his mother Catherine, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis, watching the world go by with the wide-eyed wonder that only a child could possess. Despite years of royal training and public appearances, he remained fascinated by the sheer scale of these events. The crowds lining the streets seemed to stretch endlessly, their voices creating a constant hum of excitement and anticipation. Catherine noticed her eldest son's quiet observation and smiled to herself. She had watched George grow from a shy toddler who hid behind her skirts during public appearances to a confident young boy who understood his role in these grand occasions. Yet she also recognized the moments when he needed reassurance, when the magnitude of public attention became overwhelming, and when he simply needed to know that his mother was there beside him. The carriage ride to Buckingham Palace was a carefully choreographed journey through the heart of London. As they passed iconic landmarks and waved to enthusiastic crowds, Catherine pointed out interesting sights to her children, helping them stay engaged and comfortable throughout the lengthy procession. She had learned over the years that keeping them occupied and informed made these formal events more enjoyable for everyone involved. George had always been particularly observant during these royal occasions. He watched the soldiers marching, studied the faces in the crowds, and absorbed every detail of the ceremony with intense concentration. His love of aircraft had developed early, and he was especially excited about the RAF flypast that would conclude the day's festivities. Catherine had fostered this interest, encouraging his curiosity about military history and aviation technology. As they approached Buckingham Palace, the crowds grew even larger and more enthusiastic. The iconic facade of the palace came into view, its windows reflecting the summer sunshine, as thousands of people gathered in front of the famous balcony where the royal family would make their traditional appearance. George could feel the anticipation building, not just in the crowds but within himself. The carriage slowed as they entered the palace courtyard, and George caught sight of the familiar red-coated guards standing at attention. He had been here countless times before, but the formal grandeur of these occasions never failed to impress him. This was his heritage, his legacy, and increasingly, his responsibility. Catherine had helped him understand that with privilege came duty, and that being part of the royal family meant serving others before yourself. During the carriage ride, George had been processing the events of the morning. He had watched his grandfather, King Charles, inspecting the troops with the dignity and authority that came from decades of royal service. He had seen the precision of the military bands, the dedication of the guards, and the genuine affection of the crowds who had gathered to celebrate. All of this reinforced his understanding of what it meant to be part of this ancient institution. Catherine had been carefully observing all three of her children throughout the procession, but she paid particular attention to George. As her eldest and the future king, he faced unique pressures that his siblings would never fully understand. She had made it her mission to help him navigate these challenges while maintaining his sense of self and his connection to his family. The relationship between Catherine and George had evolved significantly over the years. When he was very young, she had been primarily focused on protecting him from the intense media attention that surrounded the royal family. As he grew older, her role had shifted to helping him understand his position and preparing him for the responsibilities that awaited him. But underlying all of this was the simple, fundamental relationship between a mother and her child. George had developed his own ways of coping with the pressures of royal life. He found comfort in routine, drew strength from family traditions, and relied heavily on the stability that Catherine provided. She represented safety and normalcy in a world that often felt overwhelming and unpredictable. When he was with her, he could simply be himself without worrying about protocol or public perception. As their carriage continued through the London streets, George reflected on some of his favorite memories with his mother. There were the quiet mornings at Windsor when she helped him with his studies, the walks through the gardens where she taught him about different plants and animals, and the bedtime conversations, where she answered his endless questions about everything from history to science to his future role as king. Catherine had always encouraged George to ask questions and express his thoughts freely. She believed that curiosity and critical thinking were essential qualities for any future monarch, and she wanted him to develop his own perspectives rather than simply accepting what others told him. This approach had created a relationship built on mutual respect and genuine communication. The crowds along the procession route represented people from all walks of life who had gathered to celebrate their shared heritage and traditions. George understood that these were the people he would one day serve as king, and he felt both honored and humbled by their enthusiasm. Catherine had taught him that the monarchy existed to serve the people, not the other way around, and this fundamental principle guided his understanding of his future role. As they neared Buckingham Palace, George began to feel the familiar mixture of excitement and nervousness that accompanied major royal events. He knew that in just a short time they would step out onto the famous balcony where millions of people around the world would see them. Every gesture would be analyzed, every expression photographed, and every interaction scrutinized by media and public alike. But George also knew that he wouldn't be alone on that balcony. His entire family would be there with him, providing support and encouragement just as they always had. Most importantly, his mother would be right beside him, ready to offer guidance, comfort, or simply a reassuring smile when he needed it most. The carriage began its final approach to the palace gates, and George could see the massive crowds that had gathered in anticipation of the balcony appearance. The excitement was almost tangible, the anticipation building to a crescendo that would culminate in the traditional RAF flypast. This was the moment that everyone had been waiting for, the climax of the day's celebrations. What George couldn't have known was that in just a few minutes, during a quiet moment between all the pageantry and ceremony, he would speak a single word that would capture the hearts of people around the world. That word would reveal something beautiful about his relationship with his mother, something that transcended titles and protocol, and spoke to the universal bond between parent and child. The stage was set for a moment of pure, unguarded affection that would remind everyone watching that behind all the royal grandeur, the Wales family remained, fundamentally, a loving family where a young boy could express his feelings for his mother in the most natural way possible. The moment arrived with surprising subtlety. As the royal carriage made its way through the crowded streets toward Buckingham Palace, Prince George found himself caught up in the excitement of waving to the enthusiastic crowds. His young face beamed with genuine joy as he acknowledged the people who had gathered to celebrate his grandfather's official birthday. The atmosphere was electric, filled with the kind of joy and patriotic fervor that only these grand royal occasions could inspire. Television cameras captured every moment of the procession, broadcasting the pageantry to millions of viewers around the world. Professional photographers lined the route, their lenses trained on the royal family as they passed by in their horse-drawn carriages. Among these observers were individuals with a very specialized skill, people who could read lips and interpret conversations that were impossible to hear above the noise of the crowds and military bands. Jeremy Freeman, one of Britain's most respected lip-reading experts, was watching the live coverage with particular interest. His trained eye was focused on the interactions between the royal family members, looking for those unguarded moments that revealed genuine emotion and authentic relationships beneath the formal facade of royal duty. What he witnessed during the carriage procession would soon become the talk of royal watchers everywhere. As the carriage rounded a corner and the crowds grew even more enthusiastic, Prince George continued his energetic waving. The young prince was clearly enjoying himself, his natural charisma and warmth evident to everyone watching. He had grown considerably since his last major public appearance, and his confidence in these situations was notable. Catherine watched her son with obvious pride, delighting in his genuine engagement with the public. It was at this moment, as George was waving enthusiastically to a particularly excited group of children in the crowd, that he turned to speak to his mother. The movement was natural and unforced, the kind of spontaneous gesture that happens countless times in any family setting. But this particular moment was being watched by millions, recorded by cameras, and witnessed by expert lip readers who could decode the silent conversation. Jeremy Freeman immediately focused his attention on this interaction. Years of experience had taught him to recognize significant moments, and there was something particularly touching about the way George turned to his mother with such obvious affection and trust. The lip reader watched carefully as the young prince's mouth formed a single clear word that would soon capture hearts around the world. Mama. The word was spoken with such natural ease and genuine love that Freeman knew immediately he had witnessed something special. This wasn't a formal address or a rehearsed interaction. This was simply a young boy speaking to his beloved mother in the most natural way possible. The intimacy and warmth of the moment were unmistakable even to someone who could only observe the visual cues. Catherine's response was equally heartwarming. Her face lit up with the kind of smile that only a mother could give, an expression that combined love, pride, and infinite tenderness. She leaned slightly toward George, clearly engaged in their brief conversation, treating his words with the same attention and care she would give him in private. For just a moment, the royal protocols faded away, and they were simply mother and child sharing a precious moment together. The significance of George's choice of words went far beyond the simple act of addressing his mother. Mama represented something deeper about the Wales family's approach to parenting and their commitment to maintaining authentic relationships despite the extraordinary pressures of royal life. It showed that Catherine had succeeded in creating an environment where her children felt free to express themselves naturally and genuinely. Freeman recognized that this was exactly the kind of moment that royal watchers cherished. In an institution often criticized for being out of touch or overly formal, here was evidence of real human warmth and genuine family bonds. The choice of Mama over more formal alternatives spoke volumes about the relationship between Catherine and her eldest son and about the kind of mother she had chosen to be. The timing of this revelation was particularly significant. This was 2022, a time when the royal family was facing various challenges and criticisms. Questions about their relevance, their connection to modern Britain, and their ability to relate to ordinary families were frequently discussed in the media. George's natural, loving address to his mother provided a powerful counter-narrative to these concerns. What made this moment even more special was its authenticity. This wasn't a staged photo opportunity or a carefully planned public relations moment. This was a genuine interaction between a mother and son, captured during one of Britain's most formal and traditional ceremonies. The contrast between the grand pageantry surrounding them and the simple intimacy of their exchange made it all the more touching. Catherine had worked incredibly hard to create this kind of natural relationship with all of her children. From the beginning of her marriage to Prince William, she had been determined to be a hands-on mother who prioritized her children's emotional well-being above royal protocols. She had fought for their privacy, protected them from unnecessary media exposure, and ensured that their home life remained as normal as possible. The choice of Mama also reflected the broader evolution of the royal family under Catherine's influence. Previous generations had maintained much more formal relationships, even within the family unit. Children addressed their parents with greater formality, and displays of affection were often reserved for private moments. Catherine and William had consciously chosen a different approach, one that prioritized emotional connection and authentic expression. George's comfort in using this affectionate nickname in such a public setting demonstrated the success of his parents' approach. Despite being surrounded by cameras, crowds, and ceremony, He felt secure enough to speak to his mother exactly as he would at home. This spoke to the strong foundation of trust and love that Catherine had built with her children. The lip reader's discovery would soon spread far beyond the initial observation. Within hours, the story would be picked up by royal correspondents, shared on social media, and celebrated by fans around the world as evidence of the genuine warmth within the Wales family. But in that moment, in the carriage traveling through London, it was simply a beautiful example of the bond between a mother and her son. As their carriage continued toward Buckingham Palace, neither George nor Catherine realized that this brief, natural exchange had been witnessed and would soon be shared with the world. They were focused on the ceremony ahead, on supporting King Charles on his special day, and on representing their family with dignity and grace. The mama moment was already behind them, a fleeting but perfect example of the love that sustained them through all the challenges of royal life. The revelation of Prince George's nickname for his mother didn't remain a secret for long. Within hours of Jeremy Freeman's lip-reading discovery, the story began to spread through the interconnected world of royal journalism, social media, and devoted fan communities. What had started as a single observed moment during Trooping the Color quickly transformed into one of the most heartwarming royal stories of the year. The first reports appeared in royal correspondents' Twitter feeds and online articles, with headlines celebrating the sweet intimacy revealed between Prince George and Catherine. Prince George's adorable nickname for mum, Kate Middleton, will make you say "aw" became a typical headline, capturing the collective sentiment of royal watchers who were charmed by this glimpse into the family's private dynamics. Social media platforms erupted with comments from royal fans around the world. The hashtag #MamaKate began trending as people shared their delight at this evidence of genuine affection within the Wales family. Comments poured in from mothers who recognized the special bond reflected in George's choice of words, from royal enthusiasts who appreciated this humanizing moment, and from general observers who found themselves unexpectedly touched by such a simple display of family love. "This is exactly why we love this family," wrote one typical comment on Instagram. "Despite all the titles and ceremonies, they're just a normal family with real love between them." Another user observed, "The way George calls her mama shows what an incredible mother Catherine is. You can see the genuine bond they share." Royal experts and commentators quickly recognized the broader significance of this moment. The choice of mama over more formal alternatives provided insight into Catherine's parenting philosophy and the deliberately normal atmosphere she had created for her children. Royal biographer Robert Jobson noted that this informal address was perfectly consistent with the Wales family's approach to balancing royal duty with authentic family relationships. The timing of this revelation was particularly meaningful, coming during a period when the royal family faced various challenges and criticisms. George's natural affection for his mother served as a powerful reminder of the human element within the institution. It demonstrated that despite their extraordinary circumstances, the Wales family had succeeded in maintaining genuine emotional connections that transcended royal protocols. Catherine's approach to motherhood had always been carefully observed and frequently praised, but this moment provided concrete evidence of her success in creating meaningful relationships with her children. The fact that George felt comfortable using such an intimate nickname in one of the most formal and public settings imaginable spoke volumes about the secure foundation she had built for her family. The story also resonated because it revealed the continuity of family traditions within the Wales household. Royal observers noted that George and his siblings used Papa for their father, creating a charming parallel between Mama and Papa that reflected the equal partnership between William and Catherine in their parenting roles. This balance was seen as distinctly modern and refreshingly egalitarian within the context of royal tradition. International media picked up the story with enthusiasm, recognizing its appeal to audiences far beyond traditional royal watchers. American television shows featured segments about the sweet nickname, with hosts and guests sharing their own family experiences and drawing connections between the royal family and everyday parent-child relationships. The universality of the mother-child bond made this story accessible and meaningful to people regardless of their interest in monarchy or British culture. Royal fashion and lifestyle bloggers incorporated the story into broader discussions about Catherine's influence on modern motherhood. They pointed to this moment as evidence of her success in prioritizing her children's emotional needs while fulfilling her royal duties. The nickname became symbolic of Catherine's broader approach to royal life, which emphasized authenticity, warmth, and genuine human connection. The story also sparked conversations about the evolution of the royal family under the influence of Catherine and William's generation. Royal historians noted that previous generations had maintained much more formal family relationships, even in private settings. The Wales family's comfort with informal nicknames and open displays of affection represented a significant departure from historical norms and was seen as evidence of their successful modernization of the monarchy. Child development experts weighed in on the significance of George's nickname choice, explaining how children's language choices reflect the emotional climate of their homes. The fact that George had settled on such an affectionate term suggested a warm, secure attachment relationship with his mother. This professional validation added another layer of meaning to what might otherwise have been dismissed as a simple family quirk. The story gained additional depth when royal reporters revealed that this was part of a broader pattern of sweet family nicknames within the Wales household. Catherine's use of Lou Bugs for Prince Louis and William's mignonette for Princess Charlotte demonstrated that the entire family embraced these intimate terms of endearment. These revelations painted a picture of a family that valued emotional expression and genuine affection above rigid formality. Royal photographers and videographers began paying closer attention to similar moments during subsequent public appearances, hoping to capture more evidence of the family's natural dynamics. This increased scrutiny led to the discovery of additional sweet interactions, further reinforcing the public's perception of the Wales family as genuinely loving and authentically connected. The Mama revelation also influenced public perception of Catherine's role within the royal family. Already popular for her fashion sense, charitable work, and public demeanor, Catherine's image as a devoted mother was significantly enhanced by this glimpse into her family's private language. The nickname served as proof that her public persona as a caring, hands-on parent was genuinely reflected in her private life. Corporate brands and marketing professionals noted the power of this authentic moment to humanize the royal brand and increase public engagement. The emotional resonance of George's nickname generated far more positive coverage than any carefully orchestrated public relations campaign could have achieved. This organic moment of family warmth proved more valuable than staged photo opportunities or formal interviews. As the story continued to circulate and evolve, it became clear that Prince George's simple word "Mama" had touched something profound in the public consciousness. In an era of increasing skepticism about institutions and public figures, this genuine moment of family love reminded people of the fundamental human experiences that connect us all, regardless of our circumstances or status. The lasting impact of Prince George's Mama moment extended far beyond the initial waves of social media enthusiasm and news coverage. In the months that followed the 2022 Trooping the Colours ceremony, this simple expression of family affection continued to influence public perception of the Wales family and contributed to broader conversations about modern parenting, royal evolution, and the importance of authentic relationships in public life. For Catherine, the public's positive response to this intimate family moment validated her approach to motherhood and her determination to prioritize her children's emotional well-being above royal protocols. Since marrying into the royal family in 2011, she had faced constant scrutiny of her parenting choices, from decisions about schooling and privacy to her insistence on hands-on involvement in her children's daily routines. The enthusiastic reception of George's nickname demonstrated that the public appreciated and supported her commitment to normal family relationships. The revelation also strengthened Catherine's position within the royal hierarchy and enhanced her reputation as a modernizing force within the ancient institution. Royal commentators noted that her influence had helped create a more relatable and emotionally accessible royal family, one that could connect with contemporary families while maintaining respect for tradition and duty. The Mama moment became symbolic of this successful balance. Prince George, of course, remained largely unaware of the global impact of his casual address to his mother. For him, calling Catherine Mama was simply natural, the way he had always spoken to the person who represented comfort, guidance, and unconditional love in his life. The fact that this private language had resonated with so many people around the world would have surprised him had he fully understood the extent of the public's reaction. The story gained additional layers of meaning as royal watchers learned more about the Wales family's approach to nicknames and informal communication. Royal biographer Robert Jobson's research revealed that these intimate family terms were not accidental, but reflected Catherine and William's deliberate effort to create a warm, secure environment for their children. The parallel between George calling Catherine Mama and all three children addressing William as Papa showed a coordinated family approach to maintaining close emotional bonds. Educational experts and child psychologists praised the Wales family's example, noting that children who feel secure using affectionate nicknames typically demonstrate strong attachment relationships with their parents. This professional validation transformed George's simple word choice into evidence of successful parenting under extraordinary circumstances. The fact that a future king felt comfortable expressing affection so naturally was seen as particularly significant for the future of the monarchy. The international response to the story revealed interesting cultural differences in attitudes toward royal families and public figures. In countries with their own monarchies, the reaction was generally positive but less surprised, as informal family relationships within royal households were more expected. In republics and nations without royal traditions, there was greater fascination with this glimpse behind the ceremonial curtain, and many commentators used the moment to discuss the human aspects of institutional leadership. As subsequent royal events took place, observers paid increased attention to similar moments of natural family interaction. During the 2230 coronation of King Charles, lip readers and royal watchers eagerly searched for additional evidence of the family's warm dynamics. While formal occasions naturally limited such spontaneous moments, the public's appetite for authentic glimpses into the Wales family's relationships had been permanently awakened.